Hello everyone and welcome to this session of Programming with Java. In this session, we will start another important concept of Java programming language, namely method. So before understanding what do we mean by methods itself, let's see why do we need method at the first place. So consider a scenario that we have two integers. So let's say we have integer a and integer b. And someone say that perform some kind of arithmetical operations upon these two integers. That is, find the sum, difference, product and division of a and b. So what will we do is we will define different integer type of variable, and within those integer variable we will write the different expression of addition, subtraction, or basically the arithmetical expression. So we have defined here a variable that is integer data type, in which we are going to define addition expression of a and b. Similarly, we will define another variable in which we will write the difference expression of a and b. Similarly, we will write another integer type of variable which will find the product of a and b, and similarly we will define another variable in which we will write the division of a and b. Let's make it a. So now we also have to print all of this result on the screen also. So we will write system dot out dot print ln, so that we can print the output on our screen. And since we have to print 4 different variables, so we will use this statement multiple times, and within the parentheses we will define the different variables. And now if someone give us a pairs, let's say 10 and 5, that we have to find the different arithmetical answers or the result of the arithmetical operations performed upon these two numbers, then we will just write int a equals 10 and int b equals 5. Let me remove this, so we should have no error in our program. And if we run it, we will get 15, 5, 20 and 2 in our output. That are the results of the different arithmetical operation performed upon these two numbers. But let's say that if the number of pairs that we are given is not only one, but we have given multiple pair. Let's say we have to perform the same arithmetical operations, not only 10 and 5, but 6 and 9, 7 and 5, or let's say 10 and 20. Then we would have to write all of these operations multiple number of time, and we have to create every time these kinds of variable that should be differentiable from each other. So it will become a very cumbersome process. So every programming language provides us some kind of methods or some kind of packets within which we can define the similar kind of sequence of a statement, and whenever we want to perform the similar kind of operation, then we can just invoke the packet, put our arguments or the parameters upon which we want to perform our operation, and can use them. So methods are basically a function defined within a class. So it is a block that takes some input, performs some operation upon that input and give back something new. Now in programming arena, method and functions are used interchangeably, but the basic difference between method and function is that whenever you define any function within a class, we call it a method. Now Java is a object oriented programming, so everything in Java starts from a class. So every method starts from the from a class itself. For example, if you remember our first session, or if you are following this course diligently, you know that we define all the program or perform all our operation within the main function, and main function is also defined within some type of class. So, and every program has main function because our program starts with the main function itself. So this is how we define method in Java programming language. Now functions or method basically in term of definition are those kind of block which take some kind of input, perform some operation on that input and give back end result. So for example, here we have a block, and it performs some kind of operation on our input. We don't know it yet. So when we give 2, 3, 4 as an argument or input to our block, then it performs some kind of mysterious operation upon it and give back an output which is completely different from the input. That is, if we give it input of 2, 3, 4, we get an output of 18, 27 and 36. So if we open this block, then we will see that whatever integer is given to as an input to this block, the block multiplies it by 9 and give back an output. So when 2 is given to this block, the block multiplies 2 with a 9 and 18 is given as an output, because we know that 2 times 9 is 18. Similarly, when 3 is given as an input to this block, 3 is multiplied by 9 and we get 27 as an output. And similarly, when 4 is given as an input to this block, 4 is multiplied by 9 and we get 36 as an output. So function is like that. Function is a block that takes some input, performs some operation on that input and gives back an output. And methods are the function that are defined within class. So how do we create a method in Java at the first place itself? To create a method, the general syntax is we first write the data type which this method is going to return, followed by the name of our method, and within the parentheses we will write the argument. So for example, here in our function block, 2, 3, 4 we will consider as an argument, because we are giving 2, 3, 4 as an input, and upon this input the operation is going to be performed. So arguments are basically the input given to the function or method upon which we will perform our operation, and we will define the different arguments within the parentheses. And after the parentheses we will have the block, or which we will represent by the curly braces, and within curly braces there would be our body of the method. So let's head over to Eclipse ideally and see this in detail. So suppose if we have to convert or define all of this within some kind of method which we can invoke, so we don't have to write every time all of this operation, then we can do that by defining that in method. So we will write static, and since we don't want our method to return anything, we will use void and we will give the name of our function, that is calc. Now within the parentheses we will define the argument that upon which the operation is going to be performed. Now we know that we are giving to our method two kinds of integer upon which we have to perform the different arithmetical operations. So we are giving two integers, so we will write int a, or let's say int x and int y, and after that we will use the curly braces. Don't worry about static and void for now, and we will completely define them. So after it we will define another variable, let's say c, in which we will perform the x plus y operation. We will define another variable d, in which we will perform the subtraction operation. Similarly, we will define another variable called e, in which we will perform or find the product of x and y, and in the end we will define another variable f, in which we will perform the division operation. And since we have to print all of this result, so we will use the println method, and within this we will define our values. So c, d, e and f. So now we can remove all of this values, and now if we have to perform the same operation on int a and b, that is 10 and 5, then only we have to do is we just have to define a variable, or we just have to call our method. Our method name is calc. If you remember, we have defined a method calc, and so we will write calc, and within those we will give our argument, that is 10 and 5 here, so we will give 10 and 5. So when we have write the name of the method and we have wrote or given the arguments, that is 10 and 5, then here the x and y will be replaced by 10 and 5 in all of these methods. So whenever this method will be called, the argument will be replaced by the values which we have put or which we have given while we are calling our method. So here while we are calling the calc method, we have given the values 10 and 5. So these values, that is x and y, will be replaced by 10 and 5 in the function definition. So now all of where x and y are written will be replaced by 10 and 5. So here int c will become 10 plus 5, int d will become 10 minus 5, e will become 10 into 5, and f will become 10 by 5, and we will get the output. So if I run this, we will get 15, 5, 20 and 2 in our output. But let's say if we have to perform this operation for the same different pair, let's say 6 and 9, then we will write just the name of our method, that is calc, and within that we will give our argument, that is 6 and 9. So 6 and 9 will replace the x and y within our function definition, that is x and y will be replaced by 6 and 9 everywhere in the function definition. And if we will run this, now we are getting the first output as well as the second output, that is we are getting 15, 3, 54 and 0 in our output as well. So this is the definition of method. Now you can ask that why are we using the static and void operation. Now the void first tells us that what kind of value this method is returning. So for example, if this method would have returned the integer value, then we would have written the int, that is we would have written the static int calc like this. But since our method is not returning value to anywhere this function has been called, that is we are essentially not collecting the value, we are just printing the result on our screen. So we don't have to store the value of the 10 and 5 operation within some kind of variable. So that's why the return type of this method is void, and the static basically represent the access modifier. Now we will study about the access modifier in detail within the object oriented programming session, but right now you can just remember a fact that we can call the static method from the static method itself. And if we want to call a non-static method from a static method, then for that purpose we have to create an object of that class. So we all know that here we have defined our main function as a static function. So to call this function without creating its class, we have to use the static method itself. Don't worry about all of this, don't get frustrated by this, because right now we will study about access modifier in detail when we will study the object oriented programming. So this is all for this session. In the next session we will study other different concepts of method in detail. Till then, keep learning. Thank you.